Dolphins fans, game of the week, maybe game of the 2023 NFL season so far. Sunday night football, primetime action. Our Miami Dolphins, those Philadelphia Eagles. A Super Bowl preview, one may say. I think my original season predictions had Dolphins and the Eagles matching up in that Ace Ventura-esque Super Bowl preview, but ooh, this is going to be a great one, Miami Dolphins fans. First of what I hope to be two preview videos this week. And the reason I even say hope is I don't think I've said this yet. However, my wife is expecting our third child. And that's happening on Monday. So anything can happen between now and then. So I'm here for today's video. However, if I end up being missing in action, you're like, where the hell is that next preview video? Where's the game recap? Wanted to lay a little bit of groundwork and say, I'm okay. I'm just probably at the hospital at this point in time. Hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully we can get the second preview video in, the game recap video game in. But if not, wanted to give you a reason as to why. But in today's first preview video between the Dolphins and the Eagles, we're going to talk latest team news because we got a golden nugget on Wednesday that we're going to talk about. We'll talk injury updates. We'll talk top matchups to watch on Sunday night against the Philadelphia Eagles. But before I jump into all that, in the event I do get to do my final preview and prediction video, which, like I said, hoping to do so, I want to hear from you. Any questions you may have for that video, go ahead, drop them in the comments. We'll get to as many as possible. But I talked about the nugget, the news nugget of Wednesday, and that was that cornerback number 5 for the Miami Dolphins returned to practice. Jaylen Ramsey, his 21-day window officially opened on Wednesday, meaning the team now has 21 days to get him activated to the 53-man roster. If that doesn't happen, which I would say is pretty unlikely at this point in time, he'd have to have a hell of a setback. Then he would remain on IR. However, the 21-day window opened on Wednesday. Team already said he will not play Sunday night against the Eagles. However, worst case scenario, the 21-day window puts him back by week 11 against the Raiders after the bye at the absolute latest. Now, my take on this, I hope they do what they've been doing, which is being cautious with injuries, bringing him back slowly, letting him progress. Get those practice reps in practice. Let him go against who are you going to practice that's better than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. If you're hanging with those guys, you're probably going to be all right, but let him get some reps in there. Make sure he's ready. Regardless, end of the day, great news from the day. It looks like Jalen Ramsey, Devon Achane, and Teron Armstead will all be back for our Dolphins at some point in November. So reason to celebrate right there. Got to pump the brakes a little bit because there was no practice on Wednesday for Xavier Howard or Connor Williams, both dealing with groin injuries. We obviously know Connor's been dealing this for about 3 weeks now. Xavier Howard dealt with the same deal last year. So he's no stranger to this game either. And obviously these two players, we want them back every single week, especially against the Philadelphia Eagles. Look at their receivers. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They just brought in Julio Jones. I don't think Julio Jones is going to play a factor, a role. He might not even be up for this game. But those two wide receivers, you want Xavier Howard. And then you think about the experience and what you get with Connor Williams. Did Liam Eichenberg fill in pretty well last week? Sure. The Eagles' defensive front is a different ball game than Carolina's and pretty much any team in the NFL. So we obviously want him back as well, something to us to monitor throughout the week. Let's talk a little bit about running backs, though, because Mike McDaniel did say on Wednesday as well that running back Jeff Wilson was actually healthy enough, good enough to be brought back already last week as his 21-day window has been opened as well. The team felt that his roster spot was more needed at the time with the offensive line. So Robert Jones was brought back instead. However, expect Jeff Wilson, if he's not already activated by the time you're seeing this, expect him to be put on the 53-man roster soon, especially with Chris Brooks' injury from last week against the Panthers as well. Chris Brooks was listed as a DNP on Wednesday. Let's talk a little bit about the Eagles injury report as well, because Lane Johnson is a name that you're probably familiar with. Now, the Eagles didn't necessarily have a formalized practice on Wednesday. Theirs was a walkthrough. So their injury report is essentially like an estimation as what would have happened had they had a practice. But this injury is of the utmost importance because Lane Johnson, I'm not breaking news here, He is one of the best, most complete right tackles in the entire NFL. Now, if he's out, you got to hope Vic Fangio attacks that backup. Jack Driscoll, he came in last week against the Jets. In 43 pass blocking snaps, he allowed 8 pressures. That's essentially 1 out of every 5 to 6 dropbacks that Jalen Hurts had. I don't need to tell you, that's really, really bad. Now, if Lane Johnson is back, his injury is not as bad as they first anticipated it being. Even if he's back, he's not going to be 100%. So you got to find a way to scheme against him, to attack him, just to overwhelm and overwork him, because obviously that ankle is not going to be 100%. So we're going to keep an eye on that throughout the week as well. Let's talk a little bit more about the key matchups, some of the keys to victory in this game. And obviously, a lot of things start when they talk about the Eagles offensively. It's a lot of the run game. Last week against the Jets, we obviously know the Jets beat them, one of the bigger upsets of the year so far. The Eagles ran 22 times for 80 yards and a touchdown. That's 3.6 yards per carry. Now, if you take Jalen Hurts' rushing stats out of that, they had 14 carries, 33 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. I hate giving the Jets compliments, but they did an unbelievable job containing the Eagles' run game. And quite honestly, that's where their offense starts. That's what gets them going. And even if they put in Hurts' stats, allowing 47 yards to Jalen Hurts on 8 carries isn't that bad. His longest run that he had in that game was 11 yards. Because if you look at the other 5 games the Eagles played, they ran for 97 yards against the Patriots. That's it. They won that game by 5. Super close game. But then they put on 259 against the Vikings, 201 against the Bucks, 104 only against Washington. However, they only won that game by 3 in overtime. And then they tacked on 159 against the Rams. You keep them at or around that 100-yard mark, you've got a chance. You are, the way season's playing out so far, you have got a chance. So hopefully Vic Fangio, kind of stole a couple of the pages from the Jets playbook and the Jets scheme last week. And then hopefully added a few wrinkles on his own, because you know that the Eagles are going to throw in some new things as well. Regardless, you got to slow down the Eagles' run game. Let's talk about the Dolphins' offense, because Tua to the moon. Tua the moon on Sunday Night Football. I am talking about putting on a spectacle. Last week, we talked about the importance and the potential that the ground game had with Raheem Mostert and everyone getting going. And it came to fruition. And this week, I think the big game can come, should come from, needs to come from Tua and the passing game. Now, not to say that we can't establish a run or shouldn't try to establish a run. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But that's where the Eagles' defensive strength is. They're second best in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game, just 65.8. Their pass defense is 20th in the NFL, allowing 232 passing yards per game. For comparison's sake, think about our pass defense and the yards that we allowed, because we're 19th at 229. There's essentially no difference in yards allowed per game in the pass versus our pass defense, their pass defense. But honestly, it's beyond just the stats. It's beyond just of that when it comes to the Eagles and their secondary, because they are banged up. Darius Slay misses last week versus the Jets. He was marked as limited in Wednesday's practice session. Reed Blankenship was a DNP for that practice. Bradley Roby was a DNP. Eli Ricks was a full participant, but he got banged up last week against the Jets as well. But he's still a rookie. And when we're talking about late round undrafted free agent, whatever he was, we're that far down on their depth chart. Their original starting slot cornerback, Avonte Maddox, and one of their projected starting safeties, Justin Evans, are both already on the IR. So it is the Miami Dolphins' top-ranked passing offense. And yeah, we've got the top-ranked rushing offense as well. But at the end of the day, while I love both, I like that we're flourishing as both. I love the balance. I still think our bread and butter, where we can truly get it done and be a complete threat to teams, is through that passing game. So it's that top-ranked passing offense against the NFL's 20th ranked pass defense that's dealing with secondary injuries that we can relate to. It's essentially what we went through last year. So I think a huge key to victory: feed Waddle, feed Hill, let them get to work, let them put on a show in front of a national audience. But that is what I've got. Like I said, I hope to be back for a final preview and prediction video as well later in the week. That'll drop on Saturday morning. Like I said, Everything is very fluid, though, right now, depending on baby number 3 and when it wants to make its arrival. But if in case I'm able to do that video, drop your questions in the comments. I got to get a bunch of questions loaded up into that video. If for some reason I can't do a video, I will just respond right in the comments. I won't leave you hanging, but drop them in. We'll get to as many as possible. That's what I've got for today, though, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.